Hello everyone, Eric Watson here, freelance writer, player of games, writer of words, recorder of videos, and tabletop role-playing aficionado. Welcome to my weekly behind-the-scenes DM-only live stream, Crafting Annihilation, which I build, write, and prepare for our next session of Tomb of Annihilation. If you are playing characters Mannix, Celeste, Gillian, George, or Theron, turn back now. Go back into the Thorn Maze. You're not welcome here. But for the rest of you, welcome. We stream our Tomb of Annihilation sessions live on YouTube every Friday evening. Catch up on previous episodes on my YouTube page, as well as read weekly session recaps at roguewatson.com. If you'd like to support the channel, please check out patreon.com/roguewatson. Personal shoutouts to Platinum patrons, Andrew, Brian, Richard, and Joe. And gold patrons, RPG Papercrafts, Charming Grenade, Pretty Boy, and Yuma, Marcos David Vicente Gilberto, Sean, a.k.a. Cert2B, Adam, Dead Lizard Lounge, and Alkshi. Thank you all very much for your support. For our campaign, we use Roll20.net. For streaming, I use Open Broadcaster software with Streamlabs. And apparently I have a lot of brightness with my webcam today. Overcompensating for a dark, cloudy day, I think. If we can just kind of back off on that just a little bit. There we go. Less jarring. We dropped like 30 degrees in the weather this week. I have a toad right next to my computer on this side, and she came up, had a big dinner last night, and was all happy because it was like it's been in like the 60s for weather, really, really pleasant, mild winter. All of a sudden, we just had this massive cold front hit, dropped like 30 degrees outside, and she's just like in the middle of burying herself. She's like, nope, and I don't blame her. I'd be going down there too. Get thee back under the warmth. So it has been a little bit of a busy week for me this week, which is to say I have not thought a whole lot about D&D this week, unfortunately. Welcome, Juicy, RPG Papercrafts, and Scott. Welcome aboard. Let's see, what happened last week? They started in the Thorn Maze. Snow. Ha! I haven't seen snow in years. Not in Texas. It ices occasionally here, but we don't really get a whole lot of snow. In the Thorn Maze, this is what happened. So we had a player not be able to be here last week because of an illness, which totally happens. When we first started Tomb of Annihilation, I was really admittedly aggravated by how often we had people who couldn't be there, either for work reasons, or they were sick, or they were tired, or something was going on. And I definitely understand that things happen in the real world. I'm sure all of you have played D&D know, the worst thing in D&D isn't like some kind of monster or anything. It's just trying to get people to come together, at any kind of set schedule. And we've been able to do that very well for years, which is great. But especially with us, I mean, we're in our 30s. We all have families and jobs and everything else. It's very difficult. I have been very pleased lately, aside from holiday stuff, that we've all been able to make it week in and week out pretty much every time, which has been great. Unfortunately, we did have a player sick last week that I only knew, and obviously because it was sick, like 5 minutes before go time. So for the first time, what we usually do is the DM controls that character and to the whims of the other players, and that's just how we've done it in the past. For the first time last week, I actually kind of took that player character out of the session, and that was met with some mixed results. I know Chris, who plays Mannix, was not a big fan of that because obviously that lowers the entire party's power level, but we were in a situation where it kind of made sense. They were literally searching a maze, so it wouldn't be anything to literally have just one of the characters get lost in the maze. Whereas other situations would be a little harder to, if they're traveling over land and if a player gets lost, it's a big fucking deal. They're probably not going to leave them behind. So it was just kind of a unique opportunity for me to actually be able to take a player out. What that did is obviously way change the balance level of combat, mainly with the one I had set up last night, which was the Assassin Vine. This was the combat encounter I wanted to get off regardless of how the players did. I thought this was a neat creature that's added in Tomb of Annihilation. This is a great opportunity to use that creature in this Thorn Maze, and it was part of George's personal quest, which was to get a piece of the Assassin Vine, which he's been very proactive and into doing his personal quest, and especially now that he completed and got a reward, which is a really cool sword that I made for him. I think he'll be even more into doing that. So That ended up being a little more of a challenging fight than I think either me or the players anticipated because they were down a player, which I was not anticipating when obviously I set things up. But I think it went pretty well. Notice how during that fight, um, I actually took George out in the very beginning, which is a hell of a way to start a fight. He was a little upset because he made the save to resist everything else, and then the way I balanced it was if anybody makes that save, then I choose one of them to have the other vine attack. And unfortunately, that vine not only hit him, but managed to down him after that. So that was a big deal, and at that point, if I'm going hard like that, then I'm going to kind of back off a little bit just so things aren't too harrowing for the players right off the bat, because this was just an ambush fight right in the middle of this thorn maze. So I had the other vine actually grab one of the tabaxi instead of the players and just do a bunch of damage, and I was impressed that Celeste stepped up and tried to free the tabaxi, which is going to earn her inspiration for next session. In fact, a lot of players are going to get inspiration next session because I've been kind of withholding that for a while. I think it was a fun fight. The Assassin Vines are very interesting creatures. They do a shit ton of damage, but they only have basically the one attack. They still have to hit with that attack, but I was hitting with that attack left and right, so I was definitely doing some damage. The players were doing damage as well. It's odd that they were resistant to fire. I thought Theron had a good idea at summoning his Flame Sphere, but ended up not doing a whole lot of damage, although it was doing damage pretty much every turn. I did have him forget to roll concentration at one point, but oh well, that's going to happen. But that was a good fight. George got his cool weapon out of it, which was neat. I let the players short rest because short answer is they needed it. I was planning on if they had failed any more. So they did actually fail the check that had them in the vine. Hey, Michael. They needed three more. They needed two more successful survival checks. And they actually failed the first one, but I was going to have them do the vine fight anyway. And then they succeeded on the next two. Had they failed one of those, I would have done the pit encounter that we prepped last time. And then had they failed another one, I probably would have done a whole other grung encounter. So it really would have added a lot more time to the thorn maze. But because they succeeded, and because that vine fight was very harrowing, and they were minus a player, I was happy with them succeeding and then just getting us to the exit of the maze. Because at that point, I feel like we'd had enough encounters, especially with how well Theron was rolling on his survival checks. I think out of 8 rolls, he succeeded 6 times or something. Hello, Barry. Hello, Jerry. Nice to have everybody in there. If you want shout-outs, do say hi in the chat so I know you're there. Now, here's the interesting thing. Because Gillian was lost in the maze last session as a way for me to take her character out of it, I was thinking about having her get captured by the grung. That happened basically last session while the players were doing their thing, having the whole session, and then Gillian ends up getting lost in the maze and gets captured by the grung. I did text her, and she gave me a positive thumbs up for that. I always recommend, if you're going to do something like that, get with the player and talk with them about it. Make sure that's okay. Don't just spring it on them, I don't think is fair. So, but I did discuss it with her, and she seems like that's a good idea, with the caveat that obviously I've got some fun plans. My plan, though, is not to literally have her be a prisoner when the players... Well, I could, actually. So my initial plan, and you all can weigh in on this, is that the players... So the players in this current situation, they're in Dungrunglung, and I've kind of painted it where stealth is definitely an option. Like, they haven't raised the alarm. They killed the grung at the entrance fairly stealthily with a lot of, kind of help from me. Because I don't want to just turn this into a giant fight. That's not really fun, at least yet. And it doesn't seem very balanced or anything like that. So I want the players to be able to interact and see what things are happening and turn this into hopefully a more interesting location rather than just a giant fucking bloodbath with grung. Even George isn't like going ham on all these grung, and he usually is going to set the pace for these kind of things, kind of like Kalinar did in Prince of the Apocalypse, or I guess none of us were really... We were actually a lot more careful in Storm King's Thunder, weren't we? We played things a lot more cleverly. We split the party a lot, though. So, my plan right now... let's see. Theron morphed into a giant frog, which is great. He's earning inspiration for that. I loved it. I literally put these giant frogs in there just because I thought a giant grung pond should have giant frogs, and as a way for Theron to earn a new animal form. And this was a cool, I guess it's a house rule that we have, although I based this off an Unearthed Arcana for the Druid that was released like a year or two ago. That was really a fun way for Druids to gain animal shapes, kind of like the old Animorph series, where they have to like literally like walk up and touch an animal and gain their like, you know, DNA or some bullshit. Theron has two different checks he can make. He can either make, I think, an animal handling close up or a nature check from far away and gain that animal form, assuming, and actually he can gain whatever he wants, but then he can only transform into those forms once, obviously, he has there's like CR limitations and, you know, swimming speed and all that, but he is the Circle of the Moon Druid, so he's good at shapeshifting, and he likes doing it, which is great. So he gained the frog form. He's already been eating grung left and right. That was really funny because he has to make con saving throws or be poisoned from the grung. And now I'm flavoring it like he's just getting a high, like he's just licking, doing the frog licking thing, and you know the pupils dilating and all that. So he's been able to actually stealthily make his way through this entire area, which was something I didn't initially realize, but I'm enjoying the fact that he basically has a disguise for Dungrunglung, which is as a giant frog. So he was able to take out this guard in a one-hit bite. It's still a bit, you know, I'm not just letting the players run around and do what they want. They still have to be very smart and careful about things. So, you know, there are moments where obviously there are enemies nearby and they're having to play it very smart. Mannix has the classic, like, you know, underneath the pond with kind of the reed snorkel, basically, to try to get around. I believe Kaless and George are just kind of hanging out by the entrance there, but they're still being very stealthily. George is kind of hiding behind a plant. Kaless dove into a hut, you know, just to try to avoid being seen by the grung in the temple, because as they know, the orange ones are a lot stronger than the green ones. At this point, they've pretty much learned that. So my initial thought, first of all, I did use Aloma. This was something I planned in last week's crafting Annihilation, in that she is one of the prisoners from the Fane of the Night Serpent, which thankfully in Roll20 has an entire sub-handout, or not, just a journal entry, I guess, that just details all of these prisoners that you can use or not use that are in that way later dungeon. And I was just going through and seeing which ones could I use as a prisoner of the grung, because I already want to use Azaka, but I want to have Azaka be in Were-Tiger mode to add a complication to the players, in that they want to free Azaka and they want her to join their party again, but she is currently like a feral Were-Tiger. She's been in Were-Tiger mode for a while, just, you know, from stress or whatever else. And then when the grung captured her, obviously she's still in Were-Tiger mode. And then, unfortunately, even though Azaka is obviously very good at killing grung, I'm going to flavor it like she's been getting the poisoned effects, and that's been kind of fucking her up and slowing her down and making her like kind of feral. So I don't know how the players are going to deal with that, other than they will need to figure out that it will wear off after a time, but time is not necessarily on their side here. So I wanted to use a prisoner that could kind of explain the situation, and Aloma does serves a great purpose, because she also points the players to a location that they have learned, but they're not quite sure what it is or why they would go there. So they already know the location of Oralunga and why they need to go there, and they were heading towards the heart of Ubtao. They just found Dungrunglung as a location on the way, and now Aloma will essentially point them to the wreck of the Star Goddess, which is the Hauruan sky ship, this cool flying, you know, Final Fantasy style airship that has crashed into the jungle, and the players saw that from Mabala. That was one of the locations they saw, but obviously they don't know what the hell is going on there. They just see essentially a shipwreck on the top of the trees, which, you know, is a cool, like, Lost type thing that they have no idea what's going on. So that's a neat thing. Alama is and it says in here, a former crew member of the Star Goddess, see Wreck of the Star Goddess. She leapt from a porthole as the ship crashed, and the UNT captured her in the jungle. Aloma carries a concealed dagger. Obviously, I'm changing quite a bit of that. I'm still using her as a scout, a basic scout block, but she is, instead of leaping from the ship as it crashed, and obviously there's no UNT involved, instead, and it mentions the Star Goddess was attacked by Terrafolk. They ripped its sails apart, and that's why it crashed. And the players know Terrafolk, and they know that Terrafolk take prisoners back to their nests. So Alama's backstory is that the sky goddess, the star goddess, was attacked by terrafolk, and their goal was to just scout Chult from the sky. And then the terrafolk took a bunch of prisoners, as they do, and she was one of them. She tried to fight them off, and she was captured along with some crew members. She fears that the entire ship crashed, but she was captured actually before, I guess, while it was in the process of crashing, so she's not quite sure what happened. But then, obviously, terrafolk can't fly day and night, so the terrafolk had to stop at some point and rest, and when they did, that's when the Grung attacks the terrafolk, which also goes into that flavor of the fact that there's so many things in Chult that wants to kill you, and obviously they're also killing each other. The Grung killed the terrafolk and then captured Alama's crew members and took them, or maybe they took some terrafolk too. I could probably say maybe they captured a terrafolk. In fact, I might do that. I might change and put a terrafolk back in this. I think I had another goblin back there, but I could definitely choose a terrafolk to put in there. The players know and fear the terrafolk. And she was brought to Dungrunglung as a prisoner. And the way I'm flavoring the Grung is that they are very evil, kind of ritual zealots in that they pit prisoners to fight each other and then bathe in their blood. It's all a very creepy, evil, ritualized combat thing that they do in the middle of this temple. Instead of the great ritual they do with summoning this this Grung goddess that the king wants to mate with. None of that I don't think was going to work with my group necessarily. So instead, they're trying to. The prisoners are being forced to fight each other. They're all kept drugged on Grung poison, essentially, and that's the situation that the players find themselves in. And when we literally left off last session, Mannix was about to talk to Aloma. So a lot of the prep work that I've done is I did do some. Is write a lot of that dialogue for Aloma that kind of explains all of that backstory I just kind of went through. And what's nice is that, these captured NPCs, they always serve a good purpose in giving the players, info dumps, basically. It's just intel that the players need to kind of figure out the situation. But in this case, she also points the players and explains a location that they've got on their map. And assuming she is freed, which I don't see why the players would not do that, then she would essentially give the players the quest to, hey, can you go to that location that you already know on your map, that you've seen, and hopefully the players will divulge that information that, because, obviously she's not quite sure, she doesn't know her way around the jungle at all, that they know that spot on the map, they saw it from Mabala, and that they can take her to the wreck of the Star Goddess, and then we can do that location, which would be really cool and just kind of a reason to go there, because I think that's a neat location. There's not a whole lot going on there. It's basically just a little bit of a combat sequence, but I just like the map and its kind of multiple elevations and all that, which granted will probably be a nightmare when we actually run it, because elevation is always difficult in Roll20, but I think it has some potential at being fun, and I think it should do a good job of pointing out so the player should go there. So that's all that. Now, how the players free her, I'm not quite sure. The prison pits, and you can see I actually added one down here. Azaka is up here, and then I currently have a goblin here. I may actually replace that with a terrafolk. It's not, well, let's see. Would a terrafolk still be alive in there? No, I'll leave the goblin in there. That's fine. We'll say the terrafolk have since been killed, either through when they first fought them or they brought them here and did the ritual combat thing. I was thinking of, after doing this big exchange with Aloma and Mannix, then Kales and George hear a bunch of Grung approaching inside the maze. And they know that Grungs patrol the maze. I also, they fought a bunch of Grung in the maze, so obviously Grung patrol the maze. So that shouldn't be a big shock, but it might be a shock to say, oh shit, we thought we covered like this entrance and we're kind of moving, stealthily moving our way forward. As you do like in a stealth game, you always try to, have your back safe and you kind of, move your way forward, pick off targets. Well, now you've got this patrol coming in from behind. That throws a monkey wrench into the whole situation. And even further is this Grung patrol has captured Gillian, and their goal is to bring Gillian to the temple and then force someone to fight Gillian, which would be either like, it could be Aloma. Probably Aloma. That would be the most interesting thing, depending on how the players deal with that. Obviously, if I put Azaka in there, Gillian's a goner, so probably Aloma will be forced to fight her if they make it that far. Now, it could be, players often jack up your best laid plans. The players will most likely want to immediately ambush this Grung patrol if I do indeed have them literally bringing Gillian through the entrance. I will give the players, and here's the thing, there's still dead Grung bodies here at the entrance, so the Grung will immediately know something is amiss. I will give the players a chance, if they want, I'll point out the fact that, hey, there are, you all may be hidden, as you should as soon as you hear, Grung approaching. However, there's still bodies out there, so if you don't take care of the bodies, then obviously the Grung will know something's amiss, even though if they haven't seen you immediately. So that will create some problems because the Grung will then basically sound a bit of an alarm and bring a bunch of the fighters over and maybe some other Grung and just create more problems to the players. Not necessarily stirring up the entire hive yet, but certainly that could lead to a big combat scenario. And if it does lead to a big combat, then that could then stir up a hive. So I want the players, again, to play it more carefully, but I don't necessarily want to just keep on being too... I don't want to necessarily be just too lenient either. So they need to make the right calls here. If they do move the bodies, if they're smart about it, then the Grung will note that there's nobody here. There's usually Grung in these huts, and maybe peel off, one or two to go inside the huts, in which case the players can do the cool, stealth kill maneuver that I will let them get off a surprise round, and then march Gillian up to the temple, and at that point, the players can really kind of hang back and see what happens, and my goal, I think, will be there is to put Gillian up here, and then have Grung come over, grab Aloma, bring her over there, and meanwhile, the players can, talk to Aloma, or figure out a plan, and figure out what to do. And this is a really tricky thing to plan as a DM because I'm just bare minimum scripting this because I know and kind of want the players to fuck things up and be able to adapt from there. And I can only plan so much without knowing exactly, how they're going to handle this and what they're going to do. I really don't want to railroad them really at all. This kind of reminds me of Fort Belwarian, where I just kind of presented the scene and then the players could do however they wanted to. In Fort Belwarian, they fucked up majorly, but I think it still ended up kind of fun. They still had an alternate path, so I always want to give them more options rather than restricting them, while at the same time, you kind of also have to punish if they do something stupid and reward if they do something smart. So I'm hoping they make the smart calls here. If they don't move the bodies, if they think their only plan they have is to sit here, and obviously I'll say, hey, they sound like they're a good distance away. You all might have time to move the bodies or hide them or do something. Then the Grung will basically pass them by. I will probably make them do stealth checks, especially if George is just sitting out here. If George literally just hides in his turtle shell, I may just let that be his. I think that's a funny thing to do. That's he is a turtle. He can just hide in his shell and pretend to be like a rock or something. I think that would be pretty funny. Maybe a stealth check would be maybe an advantage stealth check. But again, I kind of want it to happen, so I'm not even sure I want it to be a check at that point. I kind of, if they're smart and they hide the bodies, I want to reward that. Have the Grung just move in, have one or two stay behind. Maybe they, just to go into the huts, and then from there the players can deal with them. But otherwise, march Gillian up there. If they don't, then the Grung will be very upset at seeing the bodies. They will motion for a bunch of fighters to come over, and that could then lead to a combat encounter. And maybe the players want to play it that way because they want to try to free Gillian as soon as they can. So that is an option. Hello, Arno. I haven't, like I said, I want the players to to play it smart and play it stealthily. They have so far, but they also believe if they kill the Grung fast enough, they won't raise the alarm, whereas literally if the Grung come marching through here and see bodies, they're pretty much already going to raise the alarm, or at least a partial alarm, and say hey, we got a bunch of murdered Grung here, we need to bring some people over, and that would bring a lot of the fighters over, and a lot of these other Grung as well. A rock with a backpack. Yeah, I suppose so. A rock with swords strapped to him and everything else. I'm picturing. I guess I'm picturing the Ninja Turtles, and they do. I guess they still have that. He's probably got double blades strapped to his back or something. I don't know. I still like it though. I think that's a funny thing when he suggested doing that. He's always thinking outside the box, which I love that about his character. Occasionally it's stupid, but occasionally it's really smart and clever, and I like that. One issue is how are they going to free the prisoners, because it's written in the book. Let's see, /roll20, if I actually bring it up. Where's Dungrunglung? There it is. That the prison cages are actually pits. Where is it? Dugout pit is 5 feet deep and covered by stout wooden bars. Prisoners confined here are guarded around the clock by 2 green-skinned grungs. There was only one over down here. Until they can be cooked and eaten. Any items taken from the prisoners are entrusted to purple-skinned grung in the nearby hovels. Well, they're all green because Roll20 only has a green icon. A character in the pit can throw aside the prison bars with a successful DC 20 athletics check. It doesn't mention... I assume you can just... It doesn't say they're locked, so maybe there's some kind of hinge thing where just anybody outside the bars can open them. Maybe it's just barred with like a bar or something to wear. Inside, you'd really have to, like I said, do that 20 athletics check to be able to break out, which nobody's been able to do. Although that makes me think like Azaka would be able to, but maybe she's just still like, I think she's literally like feral and like fucked up and like acting more tigerish than an actual person, which the players will soon discover. So I think I would just allow very easily to be able to lift the bars of the cage if they want to free Aloma, although they'll have to deal with... I mean, there are grung like very nearby. They took out the guard. That will allow Mannix to talk with her. But if they really try to free Aloma, then grungs are probably going to notice that and then, sound some kind of alarm or something. A grung high on dancing monkey fruit will think he's a stone and wants to sleep on the stone. That'd be pretty funny. Just like jack with him even more, like somebody goes over and sits on the stone, sits on the turtle rock. The other option is that Gillian is already a prisoner. That would be the other factor. And the reason I could do that is because the players did take a short rest in the maze. So they have passed, like an hour has passed since that... Or is it an hour? I think short rest is an hour. So an hour has passed since they lost Gillian. And then obviously some more, time spent versus this entrance, then time spent in the assassin vine. So there is enough time for Gillian to have been captured and already been brought here and put in a cage. I just don't know if that's necessarily as interesting. Other than what I could do is, instead of having the grung come through here, which can complicate matters, have the grung march, after this initial dialogue with Aloma, have the grung like be marching prisoner Gillian already up to the temple. And after Aloma's already kind of explained and the players have seen that this ritual combat thing happens. So if I really wanted to make it happen without giving the players a chance to even free her before that or sound the alarm in here, which both things I don't think would be as fun as pitting her up in here and then having the players try to deal with that accordingly. I think that could be more interesting, and I kind of want to punt it to you all and see what you think, basically how I should handle having Gillian as a prisoner. If I think that's more interesting. I don't want to just have her in a cage, because I'm already doing that with Aloma. So if I do have her already be here as a prisoner, they would be marching her over to this pit, although they did just have that fight. So I don't know if the timing works out. I mean, they would have just captured her recently. And like I said, we already had that last session, so the players didn't see Gillian at all in the entrance. So it would literally be like coming around the corner from here. The timing it felt like the timing would be more fair to have her being marched in from the maze. But because the player is short rested, I could have it be where Gillian has already been captured and is being brought to the middle for that kind of ritual combat, which I think the idea there would be that they would drag Aloma in to then fight Gillian, and then the players have to decide, what do we do? Do we tell Aloma, to tell something to Gillian? Do we try to sneak into this temple while this fight is going on and just turn this into a giant fight, which could definitely be the case? Would be It would be a difficult battle because there's a lot of grung in here. There's a red grung. There's a lot of orange grung. I wouldn't probably jump all the orange grung into the fight immediately. They would obviously take a round or two before they were able to make it to the entrance and affect everything. But that would be a hell of a fight in there. Or the grung grab Azaka as a were-tiger and attempt to. How would the grung even get Azaka though? If she's a feral were-tiger, like I don't even understand how. Let's see, they captured her with just a lot of grung poison, and now that she's woken up, they have to probably like stick her with. Oops. I don't know. Like wouldn't she just rip into the grung? Like how? Maybe they'd open the cage thinking that. You know what? If shit hits the fan, let's ignore Azaka for now. If shit hits the fan with the players, Azaka maybe breaks free from her prison on her own and starts killing grung left and right. That could be, I could hold that in my pocket essentially. How powerful is Azaka? As I recall, were-tigers are real fucking strong. She got a +3 strength, so her odds of breaking her cage, well, it's a DC 20. So those aren't great odds, actually. She's not proficient in athletics, oddly enough. But she's got multi-attack. Even if she's been disarmed, which she probably has been by now, she's got her claws. She's got pounce. She's still got over 100 hit points. I think she'd be able to rip into grungs pretty badly. I just don't see how the grung would be able to actually like escort her to the temple and keep her under control. Other than I use some kind of special DM grung poison that knocks her out or something. Silver they stole from adventurers. Oh, to keep her. That'd be interesting. Maybe they wave some kind of silver knives at her or something, and that kind of freaks. I don't know. I haven't quite decided. I want Azaka to be here. That was kind of their point of going in here. I'm just not quite sure, and I'm very worried about obviously putting Azaka in this actual fight because she would definitely rip anybody to shreds. But the advantage is the players would probably easily be able to, if they weren't able to get through to her, they would probably at least be able to convince her to tear into the grung as well. So that would certainly be an advantage. Or maybe I just not worry about this and let the players, from here, I think they can even see Azaka, right? Or at least Mannix can. Yeah, there's the Linus. They have no, it's still daytime. They've got pretty clear sight of this whole area, so they can kind of plan what they want to do. I just have to choose. I really need to choose A, what to do with Gillian, and B, like what all I want to script for this area, and then C, try to anticipate what the players are going to do and how I'm going to respond accordingly. Obviously, they want to free Azaka. They'll probably want to free Aloma once they hear her story. Once they see Gillian, that's going to be a massive priority to saving her. So a part of me feels like if I do this thing where I have Gillian literally be brought into this area to be marched into the temple, that the party will want to immediately ambush this grung right when they hit this point. But I can complicate things by having the grung immediately sound the alarm when they see the bodies, and that brings a bunch of these the orange grung over here, the actual fighters. Although the players, they probably are confident if I only bring like 2 or 3 that they might still be able to complete this fight, especially because Gillian could just turn around and fight with them. Have her in human form and totally drugged. Then they are bringing her to fight Gillian, so put a clock on the rest of the characters. Yeah, I guess I could put her in human form. I kind of wanted to put her in. The players have never actually seen her in full were-tiger form. But that would probably be the only way they would be able to handle Azaka, is putting her in human form. Maybe she just got poisoned from too many grung, consuming too many grungs. If I put her in human form, that gives the players a chance to stealthily walk up and kind of talk to her. maybe if the players get close to interacting with Azaka, if they just kind of see her or something, they will see the Grung like give her some food, and then Azaka will eat the food, and then after some time she'll kind of pace and then like fall unconscious because the Grung just drug the hell out of their food with their own poison, and then Azaka could then revert to human form, and that's how the Grung would be able to deal with her. But then as soon as Azaka woke up and saw Grung everywhere, she would were-tiger out. Kaless encountered Azaka in werewolf form. So were-tigers have 3 forms. They have their human form, they have their were-tiger form, and they have their tiger form. They're essentially, what's the Harry Potter term? There's like a different term for a werewolf and somebody that can transform into animals. And in the D&D universe, it sounds like that's the same thing. Like you always have your werewolf form or your were-whatever form and your actual animal form that you can shapeshift into. So what they did is they actually have seen Azaka just in the tiger form. They have not seen her in full were-tiger hybrid form, which mechanically, frankly, isn't very different from what I can tell. I don't think there's literally any difference between, although except for obviously she can wield weapons in were-tiger form. I guess in were-tiger form she can both pounce and use weapons, whereas in tiger form she can obviously only bite and claw and pounce, and in human form I don't think she can bite or claw. She just uses weapons. So it's just basically which attack she has at her disposal. And it seems like you would always do your hybrid form if you want to do as much as you possibly can. Yes, thank you, Animagus. That's one of them. Was it? I think Animagus. I don't remember. I'm not a big Harry Potter person. I don't quite remember, but yeah, that was. I remember that was a thing in Harry Potter, right? It was like the 3rd movie or something where they had. I mean, I know their books. Also, my wife is a huge Harry Potter fan. She would be horrified at my inability to recall any of this. But yes, there's some kind of one that can transform into just the animals, and there's one that's the actual like lycanthrope. But in the D&D universe, I guess it's both. That would be one solution, though. That would probably have the only way the Grung could deal with it is if they kind of knock her out. She reverts back to human form. I think at the moment I will have her be in were-tiger form if they just look up and spot her, and they'll just see like this massive tiger monstrous creature like pacing around in its cells and like banging on the things and just acting like really pissed off. And the players will have to decide how they want to handle this. Could voluntarily transform. Okay. Yeah, and then whereas the lycanthrope one was obviously cursed to transform, but and there's even a weirder distinction in D&D. It just sounds like you can either give yourself over to the lycanthropy and then lose control of your character, or that you can not give yourself over but still retain the powers. It's very unclear in the D&D universe how that actually works. And I've flavored it like Azaka cannot just, to use a Game of Thrones term, warg out into her forms. Like it is like a young X-Men character, a mutant character. It's something that she really can't control. It is basically a curse, but it's not necessarily moon related. It's also like a mutant. It's like stress related. It's like you're terrified or you're anxious or you're really angry or something can trigger your transformation. In this case, being a Grung prisoner would certainly trigger her transformation. So, what do we think about Gillian, though? That's the important thing. Do I allow the players a chance to essentially rescue Gillian right off the bat by marching her in the front, or do I have Gillian be already here and just the players hadn't noticed her yet? Maybe I'll get rid of this cage and have that she came from this cage, and Gillian is being marched around the corner. Let's see, how far can you guys see from here? Okay, so yeah, they can't see the cage back there. She could be like here or up here in terms of being marched around the back as the next prisoner. The only reason I do that is that would really force the players to kind of do a wait and see in terms of what the Grung are going to do, because I assume they don't want to run up here and try to fight. But that will also force them and put them on a clock, because the Grung will then probably grab Aloma and force Aloma to fight Gillian. And I mean, I could do Azaka here instead of Aloma. The problem is, if Azaka wakes... Well, I don't know. What do you all think about that? These are all the options I have to decide. These are the scripts that I have planned, and then obviously the players can make adjustments from there. Yeah, I definitely want to have Gillian join ASAP. That's true. I mean, certainly... my goal was to have it be the first thing that happens. I guess the very first thing Mannix can talk to Aloma, because I do want to get that information in. And then the next scripted event, like at some point when I feel like that dialogue has kind of run its course, I will have the Gillian prisoner situation emerge. And either she's coming from the front and the players can deal with that, or she's already been captured and coming along the side, and that's a big shock to the players either way, that she's been put in that situation. Like Gillian being marched in from the back and then have the were-tiger marched in. Yeah, that would be... So, as we said, in order to do that, the Grung would probably have... I don't know if the Grung even know how were-tigers work, though. Maybe they have a... If I want to leave her in were-tiger form, maybe I have some kind of silver manacle chain situation going on that kind of fucks her up. That puts her in, like, obvious, horrible... pain, but not enough to... It's almost like the Hulk, like it just makes her angrier and keeps her in were-tiger form. Maybe they lead her by this chain, because the Grung have probably encountered were-tigers before. It's a thing in Schult. They've got this special silver manacle chain system that they're dragging Azaka over, and that makes sense because Aloma just had her fight, so that would be Gillian and Azaka. Okay, this is getting good. So instead of having her be at the entrance, I'm going to switch all this around. We're going to put her up here. I don't need this many Grung. I'm going to delete this goblin. Let's say Gillian was up there. And Gillian is being marched around the side to make sure she's out of line of sight. By a number of Grung. Let's just say, like... maybe that grouping right there. I think that should be enough because she's still within a bunch of people. Alright, so let's see. Is that still out of line of sight? Celeste, what do you see? That's good. And George, what do you see? That's good. Okay, so they can't see anything right now. I just don't want to cheat the system and be like, oh, Gillian was there the whole time. So, after the Aloma exchange, like towards the end of that, I'm going to time it with Gillian being marched around the corner, literally just like this. That should be a shock to the players. Aloma can say, like, the were-tigers recently brought in. They bring different prisoners in all the time. Maybe Aloma could even... I don't know if I want to drop the hint that she... even saw them bring in Gillian. I don't know. Maybe she was in the middle of the fight, maybe when they actually brought Gillian in. So maybe she doesn't even know about Gillian yet, but she'll drop the hint that they bring in all kinds of weird prisoners. She does know about Azaka, the were-tiger. So we'll have them bring Gillian in, and then because I've already shown this, I'll have to let them be able to see kind of what's going on over here. It's very confusing on how to do like distance in D&D in daylight. Like how far can players actually see when you're working with battle maps? Like, can you see 200 feet away pretty clearly? I don't know how far away the average human can see things happening or how that works. If I could describe all of that, maybe a perception check to be able to see what's going on. The problem is, clearly on this Roll20 battle map, you can see everything clearly. There's no, it's not like it fuzzies things out in the distance. So that's the limitation I'm having to work with as somebody who plays in Roll20, is the fact that if I don't use, some kind of dynamic lighting or fog of war system, then the players can just see everything that's going on here. What I probably should have done was put more of this in fog of war, or done something, maybe even use some kind of dynamic lighting system, even though it's daytime here, just to limit their general visibility in this area. But I didn't, and I don't want to necessarily just do that on them now, so Have the were-tiger in human form for now, then the poison subsides if you need her to assist in the fight. I don't know. I kind of like keeping her in were-tiger form, though. Especially because the players might think they can convince Azaka, but she will be very much this kind of feral monster. I don't want to just punish the players for trying to like reason with Azaka and snap her out of it. I need them to just realize that this is going to be a tricky thing and that somehow you need to use Azaka's power and rage to your advantage and basically either stay out of her way or point her in the right direction in terms of her killing Grung. Do you ever use the light rock trick with dynamic lighting? Do tell, Michael. I don't know if I'm familiar with the light rock trick. I'm not sure what that entails. I should have done something with the zone. I will say that I regret being able to give the players full vision of this area. So I don't know, maybe a perception check to see what they can tell what's going on. But in any case, they will eventually see the Grung marching Azaka over to this corner about at the same time that Gillian emerges at the same time. 2 miles. That's a lot of fucking visibility. Good lord. But, I mean, how much of that is clear? Like, I mean, I don't know if you... average human can't see things happening 2 miles away, right? Even on a flat plane. Like, you might be able to see a figure in a distance or something, but I don't know if you could tell, like, details about anything. That is a hell of a perception check. Alright, so the idea is the scripted events. Mannix talks to Aloma. So I won't have any Grung appear from the entrance then, which gives the players a bit more of a safety net. That sounds more like it. 100, 300 feet. Oh, okay. I did notice you can make obviously anything, any kind of token generate light. Yeah, what I should have done that. I should have done that last session. I don't want to do that now because I didn't do it last session and I already revealed this whole map, so that's a little unfair. But that's something I should have prepped for. Better is to keep some of this information up here more hidden, but I didn't. So the idea is after that we introduce Gillian as being a prisoner. She's being marched over here towards the middle of the temple. I don't know if I want her to be necessarily damaged or exhausted, though. That feels like a little unfair, especially if her character was smart enough to just immediately surrender. That would probably be the case. I might, because I don't think I want to. I don't think I want to jack with her too much in terms of, like, I'm already capturing her, so I don't know if I want to actually get rid of any of her health or put her on exhaustion or anything like that. And she was only just captured, so we're going to say that she just basically surrendered voluntarily. Hey! That was a doorbell. Thank you! Is that a... yeah, it's a package. Calm down. Thank you. Thank you, doggos. Thank you. Sorry. Morgan. Hush, baby. Thank you. Appreciate it. Alright. Sound the alarm. What was I talking about? I got a package delivered, yay. I didn't want to mess her character up too much. So, whereas Azaka has been here for a few more days, so she's definitely feeling the effects. If I have her in human form, I just feel like it's way less scary for the players. Even though they know what Azaka's capable of. Well, or is that more interesting? Is it more interesting to... is it more interesting to put her in human form and have her march up and the players know that she can warg out into her form and therefore become more way powerful even though she's disarmed? Maybe that is the better way to go, rather than have her just be just this monster that the party assumes correctly is Azaka, and then realize that they won't be able to calm her down the way Celeste did before, which that feels a little mean. Now that I'm thinking about it. Um, hmm. Yeah, Gillian has probably been disarmed. That's true. The nice thing is Gillian does have spells, so as a spellcaster, she still has some power at her fingertips, obviously. But the Grung definitely would probably disarm her. Um, that also feels a little mean, but that's what happens when you get captured. Where would her stuff be? You know what? When Gillian gets marched up to the entrance, she'll find like the king's like got like piles of treasure, and that's like some of his piles are like the loot. Gillian's equipment's like up there, so that motivates the players to then basically turn this room into a big fight, which is probably what's going to happen. I just want to try to create a cool, like, a cool initial premise to what will end up being a big fight. Is having like Gillian and Azaka square off against each other, and the Grung don't know that Gillian and Azaka know each other, and that all these, and that the other players are there. And I'm hoping the players can come up with a cool way of having that happen. So maybe it is more interesting. She has psychic blades. I think she can. What does she have? How does that work? It's the. Let's see. Can I search whispers? Is that a thing? College of Whispers. I think that's what she's got. She's done. Oh yeah, psychic blade. That's what it's called. Make your weapons magically toxic to a creature's mind. When you hit a creature with a weapon attack, so you still have to hit them with a weapon attack. And I mean, it's essentially Divine Smite for bards. You deal an extra 2d6 psychic damage. So it's not like, what am I thinking of? Like Kazan's psychic blade. Although I think that was also something I just flavored that way. I don't think she can just literally summon like Psylocke style weapons. It's just when you deal a weapon attack, you just deal extra psychic damage. She also have Words of Terror, which I don't think she's ever used. You speak to a humanoid alone for at least 1 minute. You can attempt to seed paranoia in its mind. Although I don't think Grung understand the language. I like that idea. They could carry her equipment with her as they parade her up there. Yes, they could. In the idea that they drop it off to the king up here, which the one thing I did hide is the king. Although I'm disappointed that the king doesn't have any different look to it. He just looks like and he's got the same stat block as an elite warrior, so that's definitely disappointing. Can I give him like a gold sheen at least? Oh, that looks kind of stupid. He's supposed to be like this gold-skinned Grung, but he literally has the same stat block as every other elite warrior. So I just gave him like near max hit points, I think, is how I flavored it. The one interesting one is the red-skinned Grung, which I believe is the only one in the entire book, which is a spellcaster, and I want to give them a cool staff that Theron can loot. I mentioned this many times before, but Tomb of Annihilation is very low on loot, and I want to start rewarding the players with more loot. They are getting higher, a little bit higher in level, and they need more loot. At this point, Theron literally has never gotten a magic item. So, and it's hard because he just shapeshifts all the time, but he does have a staff, and I want to give him a cool staff. So I'm basically going to let, I've created a magic druid staff that's kind of flavored after all the staffs that have charges and spells. And it's going to be a Staff of Thorns that has a bunch of plant spells. And the idea is that this particular red-skinned Grung is basically in charge of like keeping up and maintaining the magical wall of thorns around. And it's got this staff that Theron will then be able to loot and use, and it's got charges that replenish every day, and he can use it to cast like Spike Growth, Entangle, Grasping Vine, all those things. Including, I've even attempted to have it cast Wall of Thorns itself, which is a freaking 6th level spell, so that might actually be a little too powerful. The Wall of Thorns, I mean, the wall spells are kind of goofy as is, but I think that'd be a fun reward. I expect this to turn into a big fight. I would like, so maybe it is more interesting to have Azaka be in human form than Maybe they do still have like silver shackles around her. She is probably suffering from exhaustion as well. And maybe she's been wounded a little bit. I could probably wound her. Not the Staff of the Adder. That's in fact, the Staff of the Adder, isn't that the one that just turns into a snake head? Which is also cool. I do have there is a staff like that that's going to be in Oralunga. Because that is going to be the UNT dungeon. But I just wanted to give, that was going to be the staff I give Theron had they gone to Oralunga first, but instead they went in this direction. I just wanted to give him something, because he's literally had like nothing all campaign. And then King Grok has a Circlet of Blasting, which is a little head tiara thing that lets you cast Scorching Ray like once per day, which anybody can use. I expect somebody like Mannix would probably want it because that gives him a really powerful once per day attack. But anybody could really use. I mean, Gillian could use it if she wants it and that kind of thing. And then I was thinking about even giving them a third piece of loot because again, there's just not much going on here. This is a giant, pretty challenging area. Unless maybe they just do it without flying colors, then I won't do it. But I was thinking about giving them a one of those figurines that turns into a creature, and have it be a giant toad. I guess it could be a giant frog because they're giant frogs here. Giant toads are cooler though. They're bigger, and maybe I'll make it a giant frog instead of a giant toad. But it would be one of those figurines that you can throw and turn into a animal that lasts for however long, and they can only use it so long. But just thought that'd be kind of a neat piece of loot. Maybe the run will give Azaka an antidote for the fight to turn her back into a were-tiger for the fight against... Okay, wait. Maybe the Grung will give Azaka an antidote. Turn her back into a were-tiger for the fight against Gillian. Perhaps the party's able to get it and give it to her before they go into the big fight. I know. The problem is it's just kind of magical DM Grung poison at this point that's being able to fuck with anybody. Because all it really does is do damage. Or, no, it doesn't even do damage. It literally just gives them the poison condition. So it's not supposed to really like knock anybody unconscious or anything like that. But I could certainly flavor it that way. That if you ingest enough of the Grung poison, it does start to kind of mess you up. I think I'm leaning towards having her be human, even though she's probably been were-tiger and eaten a lot of Grung, with the caveat that she is definitely suffering from exhaustion and pretty fucked up from Grung poison, and that's the reason why she hasn't like warged out. Maybe, yeah, the bag of tricks. Is there alternative Grung poison from Xanathar? Or were you? Somebody mentioned alternative Grung poison from Volos, I think, last time, but I don't have Volos. She could be suffering from some serious exhaustion. Although you have to be 3 levels before you actually have disadvantage on attack rolls. That's interesting. Maybe when the silver manacle is put on her, she is literally like prevented from going into were-tiger form. Well, no, because the players would just put that on her every night if they would just take that. It's like a little magic item I'm creating. Maybe she's... How do I get Azaka into this temple? Yeah, it was mentioned. Do I want to have her be were-tiger form and have her be feral and monstrous? And like the players are like, oh shit. Or they're like, oh yay, Azaka won't kill Gillian. But then I'll feel awful if Azaka starts ripping into Gillian and the players are just hanging back going, oh no. Or let her be human and let the players try and get the message to her somehow. Or Gillian obviously can, tell her, hey, it's me, and Azaka will like recognize her. I think human form actually is more interesting here. I think having her be in human form, because that'll really be the way. That'll really be what kind of helps turn the tide here. There's a lot of Grung here. It's going to be a bloodbath. There's no way the players can get out of the situation without fighting. And once Gillian, talks to Azaka and mentions the fact that, hey, it's us, we're here, kind of a thing. Hopefully Gillian will be able to see that everybody else is there too. Again, all of this is up to the players, how they want to handle this, who they want to communicate with. Because as far as Gillian knows, she doesn't know that everybody else is here. So she could see Azaka and be like, oh, hey, you're here, that's great. Now we need to get out of here and find the others. So And Azaka doesn't know either, unless the players then try to like talk to Azaka before they. I don't know. So a lot of this depends on what they do. I'm going to try to give them a lot of time to be able to try to, figure out what they want to do and hopefully discuss that. I will have that Aloma conversation happen first, so at least they have all that kind of information about what's going on here, and then they will see Gillian being marched in, and then Azaka being marched in, and they're gonna have to figure out what to do because Aloma's gonna be like, "Look, those two are gonna fight to the death, and only one's coming out," and they're gonna be like, "Oh no, those are our friends. We can't have that happen." So that's gonna force the players to intervene in some way. Now this fight will erupt with a bunch of regular grung. There's an elite warrior and a red-skinned grung in here, as well as they would probably have bare minimum 2 of these elite warriors standing guard. So immediately, if the players want to fight, they could probably get a stealth round off, and then I would probably allow Gillian and Azaka to maybe roll like performance checks or deception checks to act like they're fighting each other, especially if they like see the other. This is all the things I want to happen, but obviously, the players will jack with that as they want. But I would love for them to be able to like fake fight until the players like stealthily make their way up, and then they unleash this really cool ambush scene, and both Azaka and Gillian kind of turn on the grungs. Azaka's just gonna let herself warg out, and we go from there. And the interesting thing is Gillian doesn't have her weapons with her, although she would. I like the idea of having one of the grung having her equipment with them, and then if they kill that grung, she will be able to then loot and grab that equipment and then just use it in that fight, which I think will be more fun for her. And then this would just be a giant ass battle, basically, and I would slowly trickle in other elite warriors, and then probably not trickle in outer grung, but I would have the caveat that like, hey, you guys can't like sit and rest, in here. You can grab the loot and then run, and then do that classic like Indiana Jones, start the plane with the grung like chasing after him, because this whole place will just erupt in a giant fight, and they will have to run out of the maze. Now here's a question, and something I have not thought too far ahead on, and we are reaching the end of our time for Crafting Annihilation. Do I want to plan any events and any things to happen in the maze? I think if Theron grabs that staff, even if he doesn't have time to attune to it, maybe I would allow him to use the staff to kind of open a door in the maze and then be able to quickly exit and then shut the maze with that same door. That would allow them a very quick egress from this area without having any encounters. And I would probably, once he saw and picked up that maze, maybe he can figure that out as an easy way of getting out. Because, the maze becomes much, much less interesting on the way out, frankly. It pretty much only has the number of encounters that we already ran through. The only one it didn't do was the pit, which is just damage, and I believe there's a zombie encounter, which pretty much no different than the ghouls and things. So players would, I think I like that as a quick exit situation. One of the funny things that's I think Skyrim and maybe even Oblivion did this, where they always included like a shortcut at the end of the dungeon, because they know it's just a pain in the ass to go back, all the way out through a dungeon. There's always like some kind of switch or lever you pull, and like, oh, the rock wall opens, and it happens to be right there at the entrance. And it doesn't really make sense that that's in like every dungeon, but like gameplay mechanics wise, it's really, really nice to have, because nobody wants to fucking backtrack through a cleared out dungeon. So I think that might be the way, and I'll flavor that, like I said, with that is the magical staff that the Redskin Grung has, and it tends to the thorn wall, so it makes sense that you could use that to. And it does say that there's like secret doors, throughout this area. So maybe he either opens the wall or he just detects where there's kind of a secret path that you can actually just walk through, and then from there it wouldn't be too hard to get back to the entrance. We'll just say. I think this will take up the rest of the session, even though I have a feeling it's going to devolve into just a big fight. But I'm hoping that before we get to that fight, we can have some cool moments happen. And hopefully it ends up being a fun, interesting encounter where the players can still kill a lot of grung. They're rewarded with Azaka rejoining the party, which is a huge power boost. And they're given incentive to actually go to the wreck of the Star Goddess instead of the Heart of Uptau, which is where they originally wanted to go. They could still go that way, but obviously Aloma will very, very, very much want to go to the wreck, which I believe is pretty much equidistant. If we check the map real quick. In fact, the wreck is closer, which is another good incentive. So the Heart of Ubtao is still 5 hexes away. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hexes away. It's 5 days. Whereas the Wreck of the Star Goddess is 4 hexes away. So slightly closer. It is definitely a deviation. And that could really change their whole plans. They go to the Wreck of Star Goddess. They end up rescuing people. And then they're like, well, fuck, now we have all these people with us. Do we go all the way back to Camp Vengeance? Like, what do we do with these people? And then we'll have to decide from there. But that is going to be discussed for another Crafting Annihilation. Thank you all for joining me this week. If you do like the content, check out patreon.com/RogueWatson. Tune in tomorrow for our Tomb of Annihilation live play session. I'll see you then.